Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. Today is Friday, or at least it will be when you're watching this video. So I thought I'd stay away from the music theory and challenging difficult guitar scale exercises and all that sort of stuff today, and because frankly, who wants homework on a weekend? I thought I'd do another one of these videos which have proved quite popular in the past, where I just sit here and blether away about some music that I like and maybe turn you on to a few new tunes. What we're looking at are my 5 favourite cover versions. And usually in videos of this type where people are talking about cover versions, you know, Jimi Hendrix's version of All Along the Watchtower, or Guns N' Roses' version of Knocking on Heaven's Door usually crop up. We're not going to be going down that route today, because can we just agree that any cover version of a Bob Dylan song is better than the original by virtue of the fact that Bob Dylan isn't singing it? There, I've said it. Okay, what I'm going to do today is just do a few less obvious cover versions. Maybe in a couple of places draw your attention to a tune that you didn't realise was a cover version. Maybe you thought the version you knew was the original. And in some other cases we're going to look at, I think, underrated cover versions. Maybe a little bit more obscure tunes that you haven't heard this particular version of, and if I can shed some light on it, then I've done my good deed for the day. So without further ado, let's crack on with the first tune on the list.
Apache by The Shadows.
Now, I'm willing to bet that a fair few of you out there didn't realise that this was a cover version. The original version of Apache was recorded by that other British icon of twangy guitarness, Mr. Bert Weedon. He recorded it in 1960, and the composer of the tune, Jerry Lorden, was apparently unhappy with this version of it, and whether that had anything to do with the fact that the Shadows then recorded it later that year and had a massive hit with it is not something I've bothered researching, to be honest with you. But yeah, Bert Weedon did the original version of Apache. I've linked all of the tunes that we're talking about today, both the original version and the covers that we're talking about, in the description box below, so check out Bert Weedon's version of Apache and let me know what you think. Personally, the reason I love Apache is because, as I've said in a previous video, it was the first piece of music that made me realise that music could be this exciting and, you know, exhilarating. I first heard it as a toddler, and until then my exposure to music had been, you know, the wheels on the bus go round and round, or 10 green bottles hanging on a wall, that kind of thing. And suddenly I heard this wonderful noise coming out of the speaker on the wireless, as it was called back in those days, and it blew me away, and it still does today. So there you go, Apache by The Shadows, a cover version that I reckon you probably didn't know it was a cover. Next,
Valona by Gary Moore.
Indeed, The Loner by Gary Moore, another tune that maybe you didn't realise was a cover version. Like many people, I thought this was the original version when I first heard it on the Wild Frontier album, when what was it, about 1987 or thereabouts, and you know, it just struck me as being so Gary Moore through and through. It's got essentially the same chord sequence as Parisian Walkways and you know, another tune, an old Thin Lizzy tune that Gary had a hand in playing, which was Still in Love with You. But no, it wasn't originally a Gary Moore tune. It was originally appeared on a Cozy Powell album called Over the Top. Interestingly, Gary played on that album, but he didn't play on this track. The guitar on the original version of The Loner is played by Clem Clemson, and it was, I think, written as some kind of tribute to Jeff Beck, because if you listen to the original version of it, it does sound like it bears a striking resemblance in places to the Jeff Beck classic 'Cause We've Ended as Lovers. So go and check it out, and as ever, let me know what you think.
Socata by Sky.
Yes, indeed. Socata by Sky. I bet you'd forgotten about that one, hadn't you? Sky were one of these kind of super groups that came about in the late 70s, early 80s, and they consisted of the cream of the crop of session musicians and classical musicians working in the UK at that time. You had, amongst others, John Williams, the famous classical guitarist, playing guitar, obviously, and Herbie Flowers was the bass player. Who's he? Well, if you've ever listened to Lou Reed's Walk on the Wild Side, that that kind of song-defining bass line that's on that, it really does characterise the song, then that's Herbie Flowers. And his other claim to fame is that he wrote the old Clive Dunn hit, Grandad. Anybody else remember that one? This tune, I first heard it as a 13-year-old. It came out in 1980, and at the time I was absolutely crazy about the guitar, and I was just starting to get into blues. I think I'd recently discovered Eric Clapton via the Layla album not long before this, and blues and blues rock guitar were the centre of my universe, and suddenly I heard this, and it made me realise that classical music can be good after all, because, it's like when you're a kid, you get classical music, or we did, you get classical music kind of force-fed to you at school, and you naturally rebel against it. Well, this was sort of my realisation that it did have something to offer. So there you go. Let's have a look at the next one.
Mercy, Mercy by Jeff Lynne.
Mercy, Mercy by Jeff Lynne. Now, I've always been a big fan of Jeff Lynne. And, ELO are one of my favourite bands from the 70s. They managed to combine the complexity, in a lot of cases, of progressive rock with the accessibility of just catchy pop tunes, most notably on a tune like Mr. Blue Sky. This tune was originally, Mercy Mercy, was originally done by a guy called Don Covey in 1964, and it's most notable attribute is that the catchy little guitar riff intro that you can hear there was Jimi Hendrix. It was one of Hendrix's first recordings as a session musician, as a sideman, and he played on this record. The Jeff Lynne version is pretty much a straight-ahead reading of the original. He doesn't bring anything new to the table on this, really, but I just like it. I like Jeff's voice. Check out the video where you can see Jeff playing all of the instruments on this. It's a fantastic video for the song, and it's a fantastic song, so that's the reason it's on this list. The song itself comes from Jeff's album Long Wave, which was inspired by his childhood memories of listening to music on a long wave radio, presumably Radio Luxembourg it would have been in those days, under the bedclothes late at night. It's all of his childhood memories and favourite songs from that part of his life, and it's an album full of cover versions, and as I say, this song comes from it. Well worth checking out, just the song and the album itself. So there you go. Let's have a look at the next one.
Gimme Shelter by Thunder.
Okay, the final one on the list, Gimme Shelter by Thunder. Now, obviously, I was aware of the Rolling Stones' original version of this. How can you not be? But it wasn't a massive blip on my radar, as they say. It just, I kind of knew it, but it wasn't a song I'd paid a lot of attention to, basically. Then I went out one day and bought a Thunder Best Of compilation, their finest hour and a bit. Fantastic name for a compilation album, really. And this track was on it. It hadn't appeared on any of their previous albums, which is why I'd never heard it before. They'd taken part in a charity campaign for a homeless charity where basically a bunch of bands had done different versions of this song, and it had been released as a charity EP. So it didn't crop up on any of their previous albums, but it did crop up on their Best Of album. And what a version of the song. Take a listen to it. You will be amazed if you've never heard it before. They absolutely tear it up. I mean, Danny Bowes, the singer with Thunder, I think has to be one of the most underrated and overlooked rock vocalists of all time. it's like Paul Rodgers and Robert Plant had a baby, you know, and if they did, it would sound like Danny Bowes from Thunder. And on the topic of Thunder as a band, you know, why weren't they a massive global act in the likes of Guns N' Roses or a band like that? They came out round about the same sort of time as Guns N' Roses, late 80s-ish. And I think that they deserve a lot more recognition. They are a fantastic band. They're still touring today and still releasing albums. So if this is your introduction to Thunder as a band, I can't think of a better track. And this is a fantastic version of the song. So there you go. Those are my 5 favourite cover versions today. Ask me again tomorrow and it might be different. Well, not that different actually, because it would take a lot to dislodge some of these from the list, to be honest. I hope you've enjoyed this list. I hope you've discovered something new, and maybe you're going to check out a couple of new bands or albums as a result of what I've been blethering on about today. So that's pretty much it for today, folks. I just need to mention before I go, though, that my brand new course, Slide Guitar Made Easy, is now available on Udemy. Check it out. It's for the absolute novice beginner to playing slide guitar. I did a short YouTube video a while ago on like an introduction to slide. This course takes what that video did and goes into a lot more detail. You get loads of exercises to practice all of the necessary slide guitar techniques. You get solos to learn, you get licks to learn, you get everything you need to get to the point where you're confident picking up a slide and playing in just about any musical situation. These courses are massively discounted at the moment, so there's never been a better time to go and grab a bargain. I will also just remind you that another one of my courses, I think it's my best-selling course at the moment, Play Lead Guitar the Easy Way, is about to be included as part of the content with the wonderful Fret Zealot tuition aid. And if you're thinking about getting yourself a Fret Zealot, use the discount code you can see on screen there, and I can make it a little bit cheaper for you. Details of how to order all of these things, courses, as well as the merchandise, if you want to support the channel, you know, t-shirts, coffee mugs and all that sort of stuff, is at the end of the video. Links in the description along with everything else. And if you want to just buy me a pint in order to support the channel, there's also a PayPal link down there as well. Much appreciated. A couple of people have bought me a cold one, and you know who you are. Thank you very much. The weekend is almost upon us, and I will be enjoying blowing the froth off a couple thanks to you guys. So that's it for today, folks. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your time, and I do look forward to seeing you all again next time around. Bye for now, folks. And don't forget, before you go, to check out my Udemy courses, which you can see are available via my website, which is also where you can contact me to get in touch for some one-to-one tuition, either via Skype or in person if you live local to me. I also have merchandise available on my Teespring store, and of course all of the links are in the description. See you next time, chaps.